What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. Let's get into it. One of the first things I want to touch on is the Cowboys signing KJ McHenry to their team. I believe they gave him a 2 year deal. So I'm not so sure he'll be ready to play this week. But some of the things I noticed while watching a little bit of his film. So he's got some decent size and some decent power. So I think he'll be able to help in the run game initially, right off the rip. One of the things that I don't think he'll be able to help much with is the pass rush. I could be wrong because often, when we're looking from the outside in, we're pretty much wrong most of the time. But I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of insight as to what I saw. So he looks to play well with his hands. He has some good size. He has some good power. He has a good motor. But one of the things I noticed is that he plays very high. His pad level is not where it needs to be to necessarily show some bend off the edge when it comes to rushing the passer. So if you're looking for him to, get out on third down and kind of provide some of the pass rush that Demarcus Lawrence or Micah Parsons has provided up until this point on the edge, I don't think you're going to get much of that. I think he plays too high. So when he's rushing to the outside, he doesn't necessarily have the dip. And by the dip, I mean taking his inside shoulder and getting, a little low to the ground, trying to get parallel when capturing the edge with the rush and kind of getting around there and getting to the quarterback. I don't think you're going to see much of that from him. I think you're going to see more of a player that plays square to the line of scrimmage, which is exactly what we need in the run game, and a guy that's able to use his length and his size to shed blockers and make tackles. So I do think he'll help in terms of what we're going to be missing with Demarcus Lawrence in the run game, being able to shed blockers, being able to play square to the line of scrimmage, being able to show some power and be able to make sure tackles when the players run his way. He won't get blown off the ball. He does hold his ground pretty well, and he actually gets some penetration. It's just getting around the edge is a problem. So if I'm the Cowboys and I want to put him in the position to succeed in pass rush snaps, I'm probably going to use him more on stunts. So I'm probably going to be taking the defensive tackle and having him make a hard step to the outside of the offensive tackle, and then making sure McHenry is looping around and trying to beat that offensive guard to the quarterback when picking up the stunt. Maybe they're a little bit late. Maybe they don't pass it off correctly. He's able to get there and get some pressure and be able to get to the quarterback. That's more of the way that I see him getting his sacks or getting some pressure at least on the quarterback. He does have a good motor, so he's not going to stop. So even if he's not able to necessarily athletically beat his man, when the quarterback is rolling out, he's going to be one of those guys that is running hard to the play for the whole play and playing through the whistle. But that's just my little short scatter report of McHenry. I do like the signing for the Cowboys, especially with some of the things that DeMarcus Lawrence provides in the run game that the Cowboys are going to be missing over the next 6 to 8 weeks. That he can possibly pick up a little bit there and show something. So today I want to look a little bit more about the Cowboys defense versus the Steelers offense. So when we take a look at the Steelers offense, we have, as far as your top guys to take a look at, you got Freiermuth, the tight end. You got Justin Fields, of course, at quarterback. You got Pickens out there at wide receiver. You got Najee Harris. I'm not sure about the backup running back who provides a little bit of change of pace if he's going to be playing this week. I know he missed last week with an injury. He still might be working back, from that injury. So I'm not going to count him 100% in this game, but he can be a problem too. So I think the Cowboys actually have caught the Steelers at the right time. The Steelers have quite a few injuries across the offensive line, and at the same time, the Cowboys have some injuries to their defensive edges. I think it's going to be important for the Cowboys to maintain rush integrity when it comes to the Steelers passing the ball. So Justin Fields, of course, can take it to the house on you on any given play, when he drops back and the play breaks down and he has to use his legs, he is very dynamic. So I would be very worried about what we're going to do when Justin Fields decides to break contain and get out and run. Now, that's going to be up to your people like DeMarvion Overshown. That's going to be up to your Eric Kendricks. That's going to be up to your Damone Clark. That's going to be up to your Maris Leofau to do some of those things. And they can only do those things if a gentleman like Mozzie Smith or Osa Odigizua are doing their job on the interior. But I do think the Cowboys have a chance to kind of make life hell for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the line of scrimmage when it comes to their offense trying to run play. I do not expect this to be a high-scoring game. I expect this to be a game. The over-under is about 41.5, I believe. I do expect this to hit the under. I think the first team, I know a lot of people were saying first team to 20 wins. I think the first team to 17 wins. Like, I really do think this is going to be a low-scoring, hard-fought game. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers, even missing Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, are going to be able to do a good job of moving the ball on your defense. Now, Arthur Smith, former Atlanta Falcons head coach there, is the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what we've seen a lot from the Cowboys having trouble this year is being attacked on the edges. So I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to try that early and often, right? I expect them to say, hey, Micah Parsons is out. Hey, DeMarcus Lawrence is out. Let's get some screens with Warren. Let's get some screens with Najee Harris out on the edges. Let's get Freiermuth out on the edges. Let's run some smoke routes to Pickens out on the edges. Get some blockers out in front of them, see what's going on. This has been the game plan that has consistently worked against the Cowboys this season so far, so I wouldn't expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to try much different. I also do expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to be very persistent with the run. I would be surprised if we didn't get 35 run attempts this game. You know, if the Steelers run 65 plays, I would expect 35 of them to be runs. And that's not all design runs, because I do expect Justin Fields to have quite a few runs in there where it wasn't this, a design run, but he gets to the top of his drop. He doesn't necessarily see something open or doesn't feel confident in what he sees, so he decides to tuck the ball, give it a go. And that is going to be the problem that the Cowboys are going to face, because Lamar Jackson ate him up. Deshaun Watson didn't eat him up so much, even though he had a pretty nice rushing game. Carr is not really a running quarterback. Daniel Jones didn't really eat him up, even though he can run. He has some ability to exploit your defense with his legs. I do expect Justin Fields to put stress on the Cowboys' defense for sure. What I also expect is for him to look for Freiermuth, for him to look for Pickens in this offensive game plan that the Steelers will be putting together. They're probably going to try to get the tight end out there on some tight end screens. You're probably going to get a lot of Justin Fields pressing the line of scrimmage and the tight end releasing on the secondary play and getting open, and for him to be able to dump the ball off, to the tight end and try to get a little bit of extra yards once some of the linebackers and once some of the safeties commit to coming up and thinking that Justin Fields is about to try to run. So they're going to come up to try to protect, from him getting first down yardage, and to see some of those players get some additional yardage by having that ability to get behind the linebackers on a play where they're coming up to try to tackle Justin Fields. He dumps it off, and now all of a sudden these guys have some room to run. So the Cowboys have to balance themselves in a way of, hey, we need to contain Justin Fields, and we do need to be aware, but also making sure that overcommit yourself to stopping him when he starts to press the line of scrimmage and leave room for big plays, short completions, but that they turn into big yards after the catch. So what do I think the Cowboys should do in order to mitigate this? How do they win, right? So I actually think the way Mike Zimmer's defense is designed, which is zone defense, they've been playing off a lot lately and kind of trying to rally and tackle. I actually think that's actually a good game plan this week. I know a lot of other weeks, I've told you, I think Zimmer's putting his players in the wrong position to succeed. I think Carson, I think Trayvon Diggs are better when they can get up on receivers, press them at the line of scrimmage, get hands on them, disrupt the timing of the routes, and then you can fall out into your zones and let it be where it may. I actually think this week, sitting in your zones, not necessarily pressing on the line of scrimmage, and just making sure that you carry the guy through your zone until he gets to the next zone. And by that I mean, hey, let's say Pickens runs a drag route. And Trayvon Diggs is lined up over him to begin with. So Trayvon Diggs is lined up 8 to 12 yards off the line of scrimmage. Pickens comes up, he runs a little drag route. Trayvon Diggs stays with him for the first 3 yards across the field. Then he backs off. And then that guy goes into Eric Kendrick's zone as he's crossing the field, and Kendrick stays there, and then he backs off. And then he's going into DeMarvion Overshown's zone in the field, and Overshown stays there, and he backs off. And he gets all the way to Kalen Carson, right? It sounds like it's a lot, but it takes about 3 seconds for all that to happen. If at that time the Cowboys are getting pressure on Justin Fields, it's going to be up to those linebackers to rally and tackle. And honestly, Trayvon Diggs can't make too many business decisions this week. He's going to have to get up there and make sure that he tackles as well, because that quarterback is going to be hunting people that he can make miss in the open field and turn that into gigantic gains. So I think the Cowboys playing the style of defense that they've been playing, similar to like the Cleveland Browns, I think that actually matches up very, very well with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, what we have to worry about a lot is if someone like Najee Harris gets going and he gets going up the middle of the defense. This is where Mozzie Smith's going to come into play, because Zach Frazier is going to be the starting center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wasn't to begin the year, but their starting center is hurt. He's a rookie. He's been playing, and he actually played well last week. So what we need to do is let Mozzie Smith play with some power. He needs to penetrate like he was doing last week against the New York Giants. He needs to hold up at the point of attack for his double teams, so that when Najee Harris is getting up to press that line of scrimmage to figure out where he's going to go before he gets started, you're getting guys like Eric Kendricks to get him on the ground. You're getting guys like DeMarvion Overshown to get him on the ground. I really do think the Cowboys defensively are going to be able to stop the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. This is not an explosive offense. It can be explosive if you let Justin Fields break contain and make passes to those tight ends, make passes to Pickens, make passes to Freiermuth or Warren or Najee Harris, and let those guys run after contact. It can be explosive if you allow Justin Fields time and he's able to hit his guys in stride. Because as much as other people aren't necessarily as high on Justin Fields, I actually think Justin Fields is a pretty decent quarterback who just needs better weapons and more development before he can get to exactly what his full potential is. We're seeing it a little bit now with the Chicago Bears, right? Caleb Williams, they traded away Justin Fields. They got Caleb Williams. They're like, he's going to be the answer to all our problems. Let's go out and sign a few receivers, which... why didn't you sign these receivers, or at least give Justin Fields some more better weapons when he was in Chicago, and see what could happen with that? But every time Justin Fields plays, especially as the season goes along, he starts to win more games. Once he recognizes things, he gets a little bit better. The Chicago Bears had no business being 7-10 last year, or 8-9, wherever they finished. I might be off by a game here or there, but they had no business being that team. And Justin Fields was the main reason for that. And then them having Moore, and he was able to make plays with Moore, get him the ball, make plays with his tight end and get him the ball. So it's not like Justin Fields is some quarterback here that doesn't know how to play the game of football and doesn't know how to pass the ball and doesn't know how to get the ball out to his playmakers and doesn't know how to make plays with his legs. Like, he is a decent quarterback. He needs a little bit more time. And not time as far as his offensive line blocking for 4 seconds. That's not what I mean by time. I mean time as in time on task. He needs a little bit more time to develop. Some quarterbacks develop rookie year right away. They're C.J. Stroud. They come in. They're 4 games in. They're Jaden Daniels. Setting completion percentage records right off the rip. But some quarterbacks just need a little bit more time to say, okay, I've seen a cover two. I've seen cover three. I've seen cover four. I've seen single high. I've seen press man. I've seen, bump and run. All these different things that are staples of NFL defenses, and sometimes you don't get to see everything as quickly as possible, and so you don't develop as quickly as possible. I think if the Cowboys are not careful, they will get beat by Justin Fields this week, and not just beat as in lose the game. I'm talking about a play-by-play basis. They will get beat with his legs. They will get beat with his arm. So the Cowboys just have to make sure they're very disciplined. They have to kind of build a wall around Justin Fields so that when he gets to the top of his top of his drop, and he doesn't necessarily see something ready, the Cowboys aren't giving him several different lanes to choose from in order to break off a big run on these plays, or, press the line of scrimmage and able to get balls out to his different receivers. George Pickens, I feel like Trayvon Diggs should, follow Pickens around. I don't know if Kalen Carson's going to play this week, but I think he will. But if he doesn't, you're going to have a lot of pressure on Aurier to make sure that when someone's lining up over on his side, that he's holding his ground. You're going to have a lot of pressure on your safeties. I actually think Freiermuth is a very underrated tight end. I think he's a pretty good player. I think he's sure with his hands. I think he plays with power. I think he can block well. So you're going to have to make sure when you're seeing some of these players that you're not underestimating who you're going against on the offensive end just because the team has had trouble getting touchdowns, or just because this team has had trouble sustaining drives. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers do present a unique challenge with their quarterback. Not necessarily identical to Baltimore, but there's some things that Baltimore did well that the Pittsburgh Steelers can copy and kind of make life hard for the Cowboys. Now, they don't have a Derrick Henry in the backfield. They don't have, the speed of Zay Flowers on the outside. But they do have a quarterback who's very capable. And they do have a receiver with Pickens who's very capable. And as far as Mike Andrews, Andrews and Isaiah Likely, those guys are great tight ends. But I think Freiermuth is the type of bruiser that gives the Cowboys trouble. So I do think overall the Cowboys defense should be able to hold the Steelers offense in check. But as we'll get into tomorrow, do the Cowboys have the horses to put some points on these Pittsburgh Steelers to make a go of it? Because even if you're holding their offense in check, is it going to take 13 points to win this game? Is it going to take 16 to win this game? I said first to 17 wins, but maybe no team even makes it to 17 with the type of game this is going to be. So it'll be interesting to see what the Cowboys' offensive game plan is to complement some of the things that their defense is going to be able to do this week, even shorthanded. This is the type of game where the Cowboys need to show up with their lunch pail, because they're going to get punched in the mouth, and they're going to get punched in the mouth several times. And we need to make sure some of that toughness that they've lacked over the last few years doesn't come into play this week. But that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter at JMillerIYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can also, submit questions there. You can put some in the comments below. You can hit me up via email. That's knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. You can also do knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. That's up now as well. So either one, you can hit me on Twitter. You can hit me there. You can hit me in the comments below. I'll cover anything that you want me to cover. I'll also take any questions that you have, put them into a mailbag format, make it a regular segment. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love you guys. Until next time, I'm your host, J Mill, Jamila if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.